It's round 6 of the Dunlop Endurance Championship. Once again, a wide array of GTs, sports cars and touring cars get ready to contest 2 one-hour races at Snetterton. The SB Race Engineering team head into the final 3 rounds as championship leaders, Paul Bailey and Andy Schultz dominating Class 2. Their closest rival, Tim Docker, his VW Golf has barely been off the Class 4 podium this season, and that's pushed him up to 2nd in the table. 3rd overall are the Class 3 leaders, Peter and Mark Cunningham, the father and son duo enjoying some outstanding results in their SG Racing Porsche. And with several outright wins, BR Motorsport have enjoyed a superb maiden season in Britcar, leading Class 1 and 4th overall. Quicker than all of them in qualifying though was the Mercedes AMG of experienced GT racer Richard Neary and his son Sam, who's just 17 years old.
I did a couple of rounds in our BMW M3 GTR, which we got a few class wins, which went really well. So hoping to replicate that today. It's a massive step up from the BMW that we have. It's just everything's faster, brakes better, and everything's just quicker.
It's the right thing for us to do at the start of Sam's transition into a GT3 car. 2 1 hours is good, you both get decent seat time, you get a chance to get the car warm, get the tyres in properly. It's a good format.
Top With Motorsports have a change to their lineup. With Mo Ritson's regular co-driver Sarah Moore away on W Series duty, her brother Ed steps in, the former class champion, now racing GTs in Europe.
I'm loving working with Ed, it's a nice change. I love working with Sarah as well as a coach and as a teammate. We learn a lot from each other, and it's great to have a new experience with a new driver, using the data, going through the footage and seeing the difference in driving style between both me and Ed.
It's nice to be back here at Britcar. It's I've done it for the last 2 years, so it's sort of become a bit of like family to me, to be honest. So yeah, it's nice to be back. I've always got my mo since I started with the team, so yeah, we're always having a laugh, aren't we? So that's what it's about, isn't it? Yeah, we're here driving and to do well, and I'll say hoping for a podium, but just as important to get on with your teammate, isn't it? So.
It's been a good season, to be honest. A lot of learning. It's definitely a big, steep learning curve, as I expected. We've had the ups and the downs, but altogether it's been really positive. I've enjoyed every second of it, and Top With Motorsports have done a great job for me.
Making their debut, former Lotus champion Will Stacey and Sam Tomlinson.
So I actually work for Janetta Race Cars and Britcar's a big championship within the UK. Watched it, followed it, and worked around it for many years. Then you get Le Mans drivers, professional GT drivers, single-seaters, and if you're going to compete against the best, you've got to mix it up. So yeah, it's a great platform for us. And Snetterton's my local circuit, so I thought this is the ideal opportunity for us.
But with a background in shorter sprint races, how will the pair cope with the added element of pit stops, so crucial to success in endurance racing?
We've thought about the strategy. I think it sort of is hit what we meant to, and if there's any sort of safety car or Ford going yellow, get straight in the pits for the driving change. You don't want to be within the window. You don't want to be missing that opportunity, because then you can find yourself a lap down. So yeah, making the most of the opportunity. But we've got a radio and stuff like that, so we can sort of speak to the team and see when to come in. As long as nothing goes wrong and we lose connection, then it feels down to judging it myself when I'm out there, basically.
But for the team, and Sam in particular, this weekend is about so much more than going racing.
My daughter Molly was born back in 28th of December 2018. We were found out after a week or so she had a very rare genetic abnormality. She's the 4th person in the world to have it, so yeah, not great. She had 101 days in intensive care, hence we got the number 101 this weekend. She sadly passed away, so it's been a tough start to the year, but it means a lot for us to be here, and Claire from Britcar's been superb. So we're promoting Adam Brooks Charitable Trust based in Cambridge. So far we've raised £16,000, which is a drop in the ocean with the support we got, but it's nice to obviously give something back. We're doing this for Molly, we're doing it for the charity and my family, and yeah, thank you.
Following free practice and qualifying, the teams got ready for the first race of the day. So Richard Neary will start the ABBA Racing Mercedes from pole position, but he'll be on his own on the front row of the grid because the Praga R1T has had a fuel switch issue and is likely to start from the pit lane. So Chris Hart, his nearest rival from third on the grid in the Seika Rapex. It's a blustery day here, high winds at Snetterton, the rain staying off for now, but these are going to be testing conditions for the drivers as this first 1 hour race of the day gets underway, and it's a good start for the pole sitter, but an even better start for Chris Hart in the green Seika. There's contact as he goes for the inside line on the way to turn one at Riches. The front left of the Seika making contact with the right side of the pole position car, but they've both got away with it. So it's Neary that leads, Hart in second. In third place, Ben Sharridge in the Tiranis. Fourth, Paul Bailey, the championship leader in the Ferrari. And there is the Ginetta, number 77 of Steve Burgess, absolutely wheel to wheel with Michael Price in the green Cayman. And look at that, the black Seika of Paul Rose charging through from the back of the field after exhaust problems put them out of qualifying. So all sorts going on at the start of the race already. This is a replay just now going into the hairpin. On board with Tim Docker. He has a look at the inside of Mo Ritson in the talk with Ginetta. The two Class 4 cars make contact as the door closes. On the way out of the hairpin, they're delayed, and the Seika, with much more grunt, charges past the pair of them. So coming out of Oggies for the first time and towards the Bentley Straight, the race leader, Richard Neary, Chris Hart in second. Then we've got Ben Sharridge third in the Tiranis, from 10th to 4th for the SG Racing Porsche of Mark Cunningham. An excellent start. 5th place, Paul Bailey in the Ferrari. 6th, David Bryce in the Seika. And 7th, then Will Stacey in the Ginetta. And starting from the pit lane, joining in half a lap late, that's Grant Williams in the Praga, which should have started second on the grid. Back on board then with Tim Docker as he tries to outbrake the red Ginetta G50 of Mo Ritson just ahead. The second and third in Class 4 at the moment. And up ahead of them, out wide, is the orange and black G55 of Peter Basil. And they're both going to out-accelerate him and gain places on the way into Bombhole. On to the end of lap one then, Richard Neary still being shadowed here by Chris Hart. And indeed, I think Chris closing the gap as they go into Rich's corner. Plenty of downforce on that Seika. Joining a lap down, a lap late after problems with the car, is Paul Calladine in the Paul Calladine Motorsport Ginetta G50. So third place now for Mark Cunningham from 10th on the grid. He's got ahead of Ben Sharridge in the Tiranis, who's down to 4th position. Paul Bailey still 5th in the Ferrari, but still with the close attentions of David Bryce, and looking hard at the inside there on the way into turn one at the start of lap 2 was Tim Docker. He's absolutely onto the tail now of Mo Ritson. The teenager defends the inside line though on the way into the Wilson hairpin. This is where they came together at the start of the race. Coming out of the hairpin, it is nip and tuck, but a better exit here for the VW of Tim Docker. He gets his nose in front, left-hander coming up. He's going to have to be brave, he's offline. And the car is going to dance around through the apex. He gets on the accelerator, but Tim Docker gains the place up to second in the category. Excellent move that from Tim as we look at the Class 5 leader making his way through Riches, Rob Baker in the Smart 4-4. There's the overall leader about to go back onto the Bentley Straight. He's pulled back away a little bit from Chris Hart through the infield here at Snetterton. There is the third place Porsche now, and fourth from 17th on the grid, that was the black Seika of Paul Rose. 5th is Bailey, 6th is Bryce, and up to 7th place Steve Burgess in the 77 Ginetta has got ahead now of the 101 car of Will Stacey. Back on board with Mo Ritson, and he can see that he's already started to fall back now from the VW Golf of Tim Docker as they both make their way onto the Bentley Straight. Another VW Golf is being driven by Jeff Clark in Class 4. His son Root is going to take over proceedings after the pit stops. And look at this battle for 6th place. Will Stacey having a big look up the inside at the bomb hole to try and wrestle that back away from Steve Burgess. So the race just starting to settle down now, unlike the weather, which is still extremely windy. The race leader, Richard Neary, starting to edge away now from the first of the JPR Motorsport Seikas, Chris Hart. There's the second of them from 17th to 3rd, the black machine for Paul Rose. At 4th is the SG Racing Porsche, which leads Class 3. 7 places gained on the first lap from Mark Cunningham. So there, the Seika on the way into the hairpin. He's got plenty of time to catch the top two still. Excellent drive so far for Mark Cunningham in the SG Racing Porsche, who's holding on to the Seika. David Bryce is up to 5th place. He's found a way past the Ferrari of Paul Bailey, and it's wheel to wheel again between the two Ginettas. And this time Will Stacey does it at the inside of the Royal Motorsport 77 car of Steve Burgess with a great move at the hairpin. Brave stuff under braking. The Tiranis has fallen back. It was running in 3rd place early on, but Ben Sharridge has had some contact at the back of the car, so struggling for pace at the moment. As we go back on board with Tim Docker, second in Class 4, trying to catch that man, Michael Price, the class leader. In between them, the red and white Ginetta, a lap down of Paul Calladine. So Tim Docker doing his best here to close the gap, but a very rapid driver to get into the Porsche after the pit stops is going to be Marcus Clutton for this round. So Paul Bailey's brought the SB Racing Ferrari, the championship leading team, in from 6th place. It's going to be a scheduled pit stop as well for Tockwith Motorsport. Mo Ritson's going to hand over to Ed Moore. However, the safety car is being deployed. This is bad timing then for both of those teams. And the reason it's been deployed, Chris Hart has stopped out on track in the Seika from 2nd place. Peter Bazilis in as well to hand over to Emily Linscott. So they've made their mandatory pit stops, but everybody else is now going to dive for the pits because the safety car is out. They're going to lose a lot less track time when they make their stops. And so in they all come, including Tim Docker, the sole driver, who will come in for his stop. The Praga coming in as well. You can see the S2 Smarts car of Rob Baker up ahead making its stop. So they all come in. It's fallen at the right time here. The two driver teams are able to ensure that they don't exceed the minimum or maximum amount of time for each driver. Johnny McGregor getting into the Taranis, inspection to the back of the car. You can see the back right corner has taken a hit on the yellow machine. So Sam Neary exits the pits in the race-leading Mercedes. Tim Docker waiting to be given the signal. In comes Will Stacey in the RVS Tech Racing car. And there out goes the green machine of Marcus Clutton. So the Porsche is still going to lead Class 4 for Farrell Estates. So into the second half of the race, but it's going to take place without the VR Motorsport Praga of Grant Williams and Alistair Bolton. Alistair took it out for a couple of laps, but it's come in and is out of the race. There's Grant Williams in the middle of the picture. So multiple race winners, championship contenders. They're not going to score points in this one. There's Andy Schultz, who's taken over the championship leading Ferrari, but it's nearly 2 laps down after that safety car caused them all sorts of drama. And in 7th place, there's the race leader, Sam Neary in the Mercedes. And in the black Seika, making his debut in Britcar, is Christian Rose, who unlaps himself. That's the 2nd place car, unlapping itself from the race leader. So Christian, son of Paul Rose, who started the car with a good move there. On board with Tim Docker, who's 9th. He's a lap behind the cars that are surrounding him, but he's keeping up with them. They're much more powerful cars as well. So the Class 4 VW Golf in amongst the Class 3 Porsche of Peter Cunningham, the Class 2 Seika of Alan Purbrick, and just behind the Class 3 Ginetta of Sam Tomlinson. They're all battling over 3rd place. Tim Docker is very much hanging on to them though. Trying to catch them up, and doing so at the moment is Ben Dimmock in the Raw Motorsport number 77 Ginetta. So he currently in 6th place, but he's the quickest of the lot. Back on board with Tim Docker into the Wilson hairpin, and there lapping him is Sam Tomlinson in the Ginetta. There's the Class 4 leader, Marcus Clutton in the Farrell Estates Cayman, getting away now and out of the race, I'm afraid. Jeff Clark and Rue Clark in the JW Bird Motorsport VW. You ride once again with Tim Docker on the run down towards Agostini. The battle for 3rd place going on just ahead of him, and up ahead the Seika getting alongside the Porsche as Alan Purbrick tries to get past Peter Cunningham, and Cunningham is off on the exit to Agostini. So out of 3rd place in the SG Racing Porsche. It's round 6 of 8 for the 2019 Dunlop Endurance Championship, organised by Britcar. It's the first race of the day, and there is your leader, 17-year-old Sam Neary in the GT3 Mercedes run by ABBA Racing. He's managed to put a lap now onto the 2nd place JPR Motorsport Seika, driven by Christian Rose. Out of the race though, I'm afraid, the Tockwith Motorsport Ginetta of Mo Ritson and Ed Moore. So despite starting the race a lap late, the number 92 Ginetta, started by Paul Calladine, now driven by Graham Roberts. He's up to 3rd in Class 4. He's 12th overall, and he's trying to catch the 11th place Ginetta G55 there of Emily Linscott as she starts another race lap. You're on board with the car 2nd in Class 4, Tim Docker. That's just been lapped by number 77, Ben Dimmock in the Raw Motorsport Ginetta, who gets on the gas, goes over the curbs, gets a bit out of shape, and he's trying to catch the Seika ahead, and got several cars here battling for 3rd place, the final spot on the podium. Just behind as well, Peter Cunningham in the Porsche, which was 3rd and had a spin a few laps ago, is trying to recover up the order. So here we go, nose to tail in the battle for 3rd place. Just behind 4th in the group, battling over this 3rd place, is the RVS Tech Racing Sam Tomlinson Ginetta. And in amongst them all, you've got this VW Golf. So there is Peter Cunningham putting a lap on the Class 4 car, which hasn't got as much horsepower by any stretch of the imagination in a straight line, but look how he keeps up with him through the turns, and especially at the hairpin. Tim has been very, very strong on the brakes in the Maximum Motorsport prepared VW Golf. So Peter Cunningham, despite the spin, almost back in this battle for third place. Third, fourth and fifth are ahead of you, and then sixth place just behind is Sam Tomlinson on his Britcar debut as well. So fantastic racing this. The hour is almost up, and we still don't know who is going to take the final spot on the podium. Right, Tomlinson gets past the VW now, but he's got less than a lap to catch the three ahead, because time is up. Coming out of Murray's chicane for the final time is Sam Neary, and it's going to be in his debut in that car, Sam Neary and Father Richard Neary, who take the victory here at Snetterton for ABBA Racing. It's going to be a fine second place for another father and son duo, Paul Rose, and behind the wheel to take the checkered flag, his son Christian. So second place for JPR Motorsport, Class 1 cars first and second. Next to take the flag will be Andy Schultz, 7th place overall, 2 laps down. They're going to be second in class as well, but they are going to match the amount of points scored by Tim Docker, their closest rivals for the overall championship. So they come home. The safety car really was the thing that put them down the order, and the timing of the pit stops. Here's Marcus Clutton, who's been flying in the second half of the race after a very good job in the first stint by Michael Price. That's going to be a Class 4 victory for Farrell Estates. As up ahead, there's a big puff of smoke. Somebody's had a huge lockup on the way into Brundle. Is there a change in this battle for third place? It looks as though it's still the Saker of Alan Purbrick fending off Ben Dimmock, but they're absolutely nose to tail as they come through the bomb hole, through Coram Curve and into Murray's for the final time. And look at the Porsche of Peter Cunningham, almost with them now. The checkered flag is within sight. It's going to be a sprint for the finish. Third place is going to go the way of the Saker, but fourth place, look at this, Peter Cunningham pulls out of the slipstream, noses in front and steals it on the line from Ben Dimmock. What a battle that was. So fourth place goes to Cunningham, fifth place to Dimmock, and it's a fine sixth place for Sam Tomlinson and Will Stacey.
We got into turn one, got hit by the Saker on the apex turn one, rotated the car a little bit, and then had to really fight for about 3 laps to keep him behind me while my tyres really got to the temperature I needed them at. After that, it wasn't that difficult to manage a gap then.
It's amazing to win the first race you've ever had in the car, so it's a great start for hopefully plenty more wins in the future.
And after being in the thick of the action, we caught up with Tim Docker to get his thoughts on a lively race one.
Yeah, I'm pleased. Made up a couple of places very, very quickly in the first couple of laps, and then really sat behind the Porsche for the first half of the race whilst driver number 1 was in it. Couldn't keep up with driver number 2. Safety car closed it up a bit, thought I might have a go, but it didn't work out. But 25 points towards the championship, which is my goal. So on that basis, yeah, very satisfactory result.
Heading towards late afternoon, the teams had just a few hours to prep the cars for race 2 and to try and figure out the best setup, with the threat of rain a very real possibility. As ever, the start grid was based on race 1 finishing positions, so once again the Mercedes would be on pole, but this time with Sam Neary taking the start and holding the lead from fellow front row starter Paul Rose in the JPR Motorsport Saker. David Bryce third for ALP Racing, with Will Stacey gaining 2 positions and into 4th. The track was dry, but rain had just started to fall. Into the hairpin for the first time, Steve Burgess was 5th, ahead of Mark Cunningham's Porsche and Ben Sharridge in the Tyrannus. Paul Bailey losing a couple of places in the Ferrari, but right to be cautious with the championship to consider. Meanwhile, the green Saker of Chris Hart was on a mission, having started last thanks to drive shaft failure in race 1. Hopefully this time, team leader Steve Harris would get a go in the car. One benefit of the high wind was that the rain clouds quickly blew over the circuit, so Neary experienced no grip issues as he negotiated the infield complex for the first time, though the 2 Sakers and the Ginetta were staying with him. Will Stacey's move from 6th to 4th and put him into the Class 3 lead. Further back, Rob Baker and Jeff Clark were trying to make their way from the back of the grid after the Smart Car and the Golf had suffered race 1 retirements. Both would gain an early place as Paul Calladine took to the grass in his Ginetta. Sadly, Chris Hart was forced to pit after just 3 laps with turbo wastegate failure. The same issue put Paul Rose into retirement just a few minutes later. So with 2 of his Class 1 rivals out, Neary was suddenly able to enjoy a much more comfortable lead than anticipated. Class 2 leader Bryce was promoted up to second in the sole remaining Saker, with Stacey third on the road and leading Class 3. Typical of the championship, you had two very different cars, but equally matched, with Bryce unable to shake off the Rob Boston Racing prepared Ginetta of Stacey. Mark Cunningham ran fourth in the Porsche, while Paul Bailey was now getting into his stride, fifth in the Ferrari and pulling away from the Ginetta of Steve Burgess. Next was the MacG Racing Taranis of Ben Sharridge, closely followed by teenage racer Emily Linscott, an impressive 8th in Peter Basil's Ginetta Super Cup car. Michael Price was once again heading Class 4 in the Farrell Estates Cayman, having pulled 7 seconds clear of Tim Docker. But the latter was on course to match the points haul of overall championship rivals Bailey and Schultz, who also ran second within their own class in the Ferrari. Time for the mandatory stops, and the Cunningham Porsche came in from fourth on the same lap as the second place ALP Racing Saker, now taken over by Alan Purbrick. The rain continued to hold off, but it had been a dark day for MacG Racing, with Donington Park race winners dropping out of the race with a broken rear suspension. Better news though for Rob Baker and S2 Smarts. 12th place overall meant that a Class 5 win beckoned. In the second half of the race, the rapid Andy Schultz moved the Ferrari 488 into second place outright. He'd also taken the Class 2 lead from Alan Purbrick, the latter having to work hard to stay ahead of Sam Tomlinson's RVS Tech Racing Ginetta, which ran fourth and still led Class 3. These two teams had been locked together for almost 45 minutes. Whoever appointed Marcus Clutton to guest drive for Farrell Estates had made a first-rate decision. Incredibly, the Class 4 Cayman was now up to 5th place overall. The best battle was for 6th as the Porsche of Peter Cunningham tried to fend off Ben Dimmock's Ginetta. A lap down but every bit as quick, VW Racing Cup Championship runner-up Rue Clark on his Britcar debut. But the day belonged to ABBA Racing as Richard Neary negotiated Murray's for the final time and sprinted up the centre straight to take the team's second victory of the day, more than a minute clear of Andy Schultz's Ferrari. Alan Purbrick pulled away from the RVS Tech Racing Ginetta in the closing stages to complete the overall podium, but with a Class 3 victory, it had been quite the debut for Sam Tomlinson and Will Stacey.
The third in the first race was good, we were very close, and then honestly we drove away from them this race. I was lapping almost right on the back of the Class 2 cars, looking to almost get past, couldn't quite make it, but you're lapping like the 56s consistently quick with a big buffer. Just couldn't have gone any better. Great start, ideal race.
Will, as he said, teed it up beautifully for me. Third overall, and I think he came in, as he said, lovely buffer to the guys behind, and Steve Burgess and Ben Dimmock were on the pace all weekend, so it was, yes, it was very satisfactory. And when I was out there, as I said, clear track, head down, get in the zone, and the car handled beautifully. Today's about building memories, and just a great way to top it off.
In terms of the championship, Bailey and Schultz now have a 19-point lead over Docker, with the Cunninghams a further 13 points adrift in third. All three outfits leading their respective class standings, with just 2 rounds remaining in the Dunlop Endurance Championship. Thanks for watching.